Well, good evening, everyone. We are at yet another electronic meeting on Tuesday, September 8th at 6 p.m. All of council is present. I do appreciate everyone coming in on Facebook. Please, and we'll state this throughout the night, we only take public comments electronically that are sent to our town clerk. Any comments you make on Facebook, we don't always follow Facebook as it's live, so there's no way to answer. If there are any questions, someone from the town will follow up most likely tomorrow if there are questions that you may have, and not just statements. So if you want public comment, it's on our agenda. You submit it electronically. Kim will read it. And hopefully one day we'll be back where we can see everyone face to face and you can read your public comment in person. Let's all begin by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Frazier, you've got invocation.
Yes. Heavenly Father, right now, we just come thanking you for all your blessings. We ask that you continue to give us all the strength, courage, and the guidance necessary to lead. And we ask that you continue to be a source of our refuge and a source of light. These and all the blessings we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, ma'am. Next is the adoption of the agenda. It's shown page 1 of 3 or 4 is on the screen. Mark, is there any changes on the agenda?
No, ma'am, no changes.
If no changes, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
That second, we'll do Dan second, Bridget first. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. And are there any opposed? That's unanimous. Next, we have minutes. First is the workshop minutes from July 21st, 2020. Are there any changes? If not, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. And are there any opposed? That's unanimous. Number 2 are the regular meeting minutes of August 11th, 2020. Any changes? Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Oh, wait a minute. I didn't get a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Oh, any opposed? That's unanimous. Followed by our work session minutes of August 13th, 2020. If you've read over them, are there any changes? Any edits? If not, is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous as well. We have one presentation, which is why the majority of us are wearing teal today. It's in support of Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. And Kim, who do we have? Is there someone coming on that's going to represent this?
Yes, we have Lauren.
Lauren.
Tommy, there we go. There we go. There she is.
Hi.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for being here to represent this group and all of us on this proclamation. I'm going to read it. And if you have a couple of things you want to say, feel free after I read the proclamation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Whereas ovarian cancer claims more women's lives than any other gynecological cancer, and whereas ovarian cancer is difficult to detect and women are often not diagnosed until the disease has reached an advanced stage, whereas early diagnosis of ovarian cancer can increase the survival rate to as high as 94%, whereas certain factors can reduce the risk of ovarian cancer and play an important role in its prevention, and whereas awareness and early detection of ovarian cancer is the best means of protecting women's lives from this disease. Whereas September has been designated as National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, whereas Turn the Towns Teal is a campaign to create awareness of ovarian cancer and its symptoms. This campaign was the inspiration of Gail McNeil and goes forward in her name and in her honor. Whereas teal ribbons have been tied at all the Town of Bluffton buildings to raise awareness about this disease, along with symptom and information cards that will be available at all locations. I, Lisa Sulka, Mayor of the Town of Bluffton, along with Bluffton Town Council, hereby proclaim that September 2020 is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month in the Town of Bluffton. Thank you for being part of us to say a few words, and
Absolutely.
we'll give you the mic for a little bit.
Thank you so much. Ovarian cancer is obviously very important to me, as well as Katie Maxwell, who lives in Bluffton also. She is a survivor, and I am actually the daughter of a mother who passed away 2 years ago from ovarian cancer. So advocating is really important to me, and spreading awareness in our town is so important as well. There's over 22,000 people in 2020 that will be diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and 14,000 will pass away. It's extremely high fatality rate. And so that's why it's so important to raise the awareness and get the symptoms out, because they're so minor and minimal that most people either get misdiagnosed or just put them aside. And with treatment in early stages being caught, this is very much so something that can be treated.
Well, it's Katie, I mean, you were talking about her, she's got a husband that works for us in the
Right.
PD, and it's even more special to our family. I want to tell you, I'm in a book club, and my book
Oh,
this month, I don't know if you've read it or not, it's called Natitude. It's a young
oh my
lady.
gosh.
She works with my daughter at MUSC. She was diagnosed when she was in high school, and it's just a story of her life. And she now have chill bumps thinking about it. Never expected to have children, just the rest of her life. She's pregnant, and
Oh my gosh.
she's 27.
That's
So she
amazing.
high school and college and fought it and wrote this very thin book. It's on Amazon. I usually don't promote, but it's a quick read, and it really does put you in your shoes. And
I love that. I'll definitely be ordering that. And that's so wonderful. And again, that just shows that having awareness and being able to know when you have this, fighting it early, there's so much good that can come out of that.
I agree. Well, thank
Well,
you. for
wonderful.
coming, and we will wear our teal and spread the news, and it's all over town. And if anyone on council wants to say anything, if not, we'll let you go on.
All right.
Thank you, and prayers
Thank
for
you.
and all of you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Solka. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have communications from mayor and council. And if y'all would humor me a little bit, I wrote down some thoughts. I'd just like to say like 2 minutes of your time. And it really has had to do a lot with what's gone on really the past 5 years, but really highlighted over the last 2 months, focused on 2 of our council members. I was elected in 2008, and the day I was elected, we had to deal with the May River. A couple of years later, we had a recession. Then we had a depression. We've had hurricanes. We've had floods. Every issue you think we would have to deal with in the worst possible way. But this year has been really tough. Hate, anger, divisiveness, lack of trust versus understanding and being thankful. And this council has been thrown right into the middle of it with accusations and Facebook, Kim called it, the keyboard bandits, typing whatever they want with no factual information behind it. They've called me and some of us corrupt. They've called us evil, not fit to serve, self-serving. I mean, name the words. It was never, it's always overcome and very little to come up against it. So the article that was written in the past month to focus on 2 of our council members, honestly, the light at the end of the tunnel, and I actually told Larry this, and I can say the same to Bridget, things that have been said about y'all from your friends in this community are things we usually hear about at funerals. And I don't mean that lightly, but thank goodness if there's a light, you see your group and your circles are big, and the love and support that's been shown to you from just really bad information is just, I would hope that all of us get that same thing. But I just wanted to let this Facebook group know a few things about this council I sit with. I'm gonna start with Fred. Fred Hamilton. He's calm, he listens, he thinks before he speaks. You know what you get from him. You know whether you agree with him or not. You know where he's coming from because all of his responses and his actions come from his heart. He volunteers on boards with his town. He works day in and day out on affordable housing and keeping housing dry and safe for our residents. And he's the real thing. That's Fred Hamilton. Bridget. Bridget's new to council. Poor Bridget. She's been baptized by fire. She is an old soul. Her dad gave her his heart. I know that. And she carries on his heart and compassion. She is more outspoken than anyone I've ever seen in my life. And I don't always agree with everything she puts out there, but you know what, again, you know what you get when you're a friend with Bridget. She set aside months of her weekends to take on a mission to feed school children that were in need. And she gathered so many people to come together from all walks of life, all diversities, to come and deliver lunches to people in need. And I think we counted about 20,000 lunches, I think is what we've delivered. So that's Bridget Frazier. Dan, if there's ever a poster child for service before self, is Dan Wood. I mean, I've known Dan for many years, and anything you see that's gone on this town that's been put on by the Rotary Club, Dan's fingerprints have been all over it. He's our researcher. He researches everything. We call him our historian. I mean, he asks the questions, he has to educate himself, but he asks things a lot of times, I think, for people watching to also understand what the answers are, so it doesn't feel like we're preaching to them. He's the first to volunteer on anything you ask him to do. That is Dan Wood. And Larry, if we didn't think he was the most beloved resident in this town after this past week, then we don't know what the word beloved means. He has the most caring heart and soul. You see it every day. People are in need, Larry's there with money, with a room. I mean, I heard Tina say he's raised more people not related to you than have been related to you. You're a straight shooter. You always bring it up. If you don't like what we say, you're going to call it out, but with so much respect and so much consideration for others around you. You love everything, and everyone knows that. So that's who I sit with. And I was talking about wanting to do this tonight. I wanted to write it, but I didn't want 25 negative posts coming back at me. My kids lately have asked me, like, why do y'all do what you do? Why do you put up with all of this? And I really thought about it. Why wouldn't people want us on council? Look at our bios. We're the first to give back. We're the first to stand in line. We're the first to help out. We're the first to deliver. We're the first to say, how can we do something? That's who you need to look at when you're electing someone to serve you. And that none of us have an agenda. We serve before ourselves. And I'm pretty darn proud of all of y'all. So I'll take the bullet. I'll have your back. I know we're not agreeing tonight on probably a lot of these things, but we have consideration for each other. We have respect for each other, and we believe in kindness. And for that, I'm going to end it with an amen. And I just want to thank y'all, because I'm sure more is to come. And it's tough times out there tonight, now, and probably for the next several months. And I just want to thank y'all. So that's my 2 minutes that turned into 5 minutes. Done.
I'm going to say thank you, Lisa, because everything that you said about us, I feel sure that we would say the same, if not more, about you. So thank you.
Well, thank you back. Anyone else on council?
Yes. May I go next, please?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to share a private conversation I had with Lisa a couple of days ago. We don't normally tell people when we appreciate them, especially when we think, especially me, because I think once you're doing your job, you're doing your job. And being an elected official, you're supposed to do your job. So you shouldn't have to pat somebody on the back for what you know they signed up for. But Lisa has been, in the last 2 months, she has been on top of her job. She has been above and beyond what I call a leader, because there are times when 300 emails, I don't want to answer 300 emails, especially when they are copy and paste. So, but Lisa takes the time out to answer the email on behalf of council, and she does it very presidential. You know, I think that makes me proud to say she leads not only this community, but then she leads from the heart. And I wasn't prepared to say this tonight. I really don't think it's truly necessary, because I called her and told her I appreciate all that she was doing. And I wanted her to know, we don't normally do that. You know, we don't normally tell each other you're doing a good job. Sometimes in politics it's competition. Everybody wants to be the first. Everybody wants to be patted on the back and be recognized as the most valuable leader in that environment. Please continue to what you're doing, Lisa, and know that you have my support as mayor. You have my support as a friend, and you have my support as a leader. And I'm gonna tell you, I said that because you took the time out to find the good in all of us. But I feel that way seriously. And you guys know I don't say it unless I mean it. I feel that way about each and every one of our elected officials. I feel that way about Dan. I feel that way about Larry, and I feel that way about Bridget. I feel that we have a strong will to do what's right for our community. And most times I like to use God as my guiding tool. And I see sometimes some of the values that you guys use when you're trying to make decisions, because you want to represent everyone. And I spend sometimes calling you guys, most time, to make sure that I understand what you understand. And that's how I think we all get along. I know I'm taking up a lot of time, and I wasn't even prepared to say this, but we are a true team of caring leaders that has no hidden agenda. And I enjoy working with this team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for comments on anything?
Well, real quick, again, since we're sitting around the campfire showing our affection, I do have true affection for each and every one of the people that I'm serving with, including our staff and our police chief, everyone. And, when I ended my career, it was a dream of mine to run for office. And it's been the greatest, most rewarding satisfaction of my life. And I never dreamed that I would be sitting with people dedicated and honest and hardworking as this group. And I will say very quickly, I was fortunate enough to come to a council where we have a superstar mayor. This woman is selfless in her responses, her endeavor, her work ethic. She works far more being a mayor than she does a realtor. And she puts in numerous hours every single day, every week. So again, I'm like Fred and Larry and Lisa, and I'm sure Bridget will follow up, and I'm proud to serve. And for those who don't, a lot of people are frustrated, scared. There's a lot of bad things happening to a lot of people now. And so sometimes they just need to lash out, and we understand that. But we're here. We're going to stay here for you. And hopefully we can continue to make this a great town. And thank you.
And I'll just follow up with that and sharing on the sentiments of everyone. What I've respected and valued here, especially in my short term of being an elected official, is that our operation is really a testament for society right now. There's a lot of hate, there's a lot of vitriol, there's a lot of divisiveness going on. And the fact that, you know, we can all always come together and understand that we're not going to align politically all the time. We're going to have a difference of opinion and belief on certain things, but we hold true to the fact that we love our community and we love putting the needs of people first, even if sometimes it means we're going to become the unpopular person. And so, you know, it's really refreshing to be able to share in moments like this and kind of encouraging in the sense of this is where we all should be. Sometimes it's good to be able to get away from being the keyboard bandit or you know, the social media negative, you know, person, and just kind of look around, appreciate, be grateful for where we are, and certainly understand that, you know, everything that we do is always aligned with understanding that our community is the most valuable resource we have, and we're greater together than we are being separate and mean and divisive to each other. So I'm grateful for you guys and would say kudos to everyone on what we're doing, and even in adversity, let's continue to do the job we've all been elected to do.
That's right. Okay. Anything else from Mayor Council? Okay. Next, do we have public comment, Kim? Public comment? No public comment. Let's move on to our workshop items. We have Heather up on the public project application update from Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer to install a water main line within the South Carolina Highway 46 right away from its intersection with Gibbet Road West to the intersection of Heritage Parkway at the northern entrance of Heritage at New Riverside, where it will tie into existing main line. This is a workshop item. So will we see something like this again, Heather, or is this just to get out to the public?
No, just to get some feedback, to get this out to the public, and I'll go through and explain just why it's a very large project that will have a very visual impact. So felt it was important to bring it to council as a workshop item. And I do believe that we have Andrew Dudley from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority that's been invited to the meeting as well, if you have any technical questions that I can't answer.
Okay, it's all yours.
Okay. Like you said, this is a public project review for a water main extension by Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. Basically, they are the ones that supply water throughout the town. And as we continue to grow and see more rooftops and houses and development occurring, there is a need for them to address that. These proposed water system improvements will continue to serve the region and the area, as well as be in compliance with the state drinking water regulations. So this is a little bit over 2.5 miles of 36-inch water main. And again, that will provide that complete loop of water for the southern portion of that water district. This is located along Highway 46, which is a South Carolina designated scenic byway. It also has a corridor management plan that was developed by the town that town staff is reviewing compliance with that along with the proposed plans. And one of the main goals of that plan is to conserve that natural and scenic resources that make this area so important. This project does affect existing vegetated buffers. These are not required buffers. All of the area is located within the South Carolina DOT right-of-way. However, it does provide that visual buffer between the road and the adjacent developments. Going through here, because the project length is so long, it was hard to get really great maps out here, but I know we've all driven that road quite a bit, I'm sure, over time. But here's the project limits down here at the bottom of the screen in the left-hand corner. That's the Heritage Parkway, the entrance to Heritage at New Riverside. And going through here and later in the presentation, I'll have photographs of areas where the larger trees what we refer to them as significant trees. So per the regulations, any tree that is over 24 inches diameter breast height is determined to be a significant tree. Anything that's greater than 8 inches in diameter or more is considered a tree, and something that they do tally as far as how many are being removed and things like that. So again, kind of, you can see the blue line here that goes along the South Carolina 46. And again, it is a very 2.5 miles, so trying to go through all here. Continuing throughout, there's the circle at New Riverside. Here's where the development that is occurring right now for the Publix, the barn property, as well as those other corners there. And again, once I go through here, there'll be some more photos again of those trees. Continuing on, you'll see that there is an area of the project that is located in unincorporated Beaufort County. So here's Palmetto Towns, landings at New Riverside, both residential neighborhoods. And then it does proceed to extend into the county property, and the project limits do end here at Gibbet Road and South Carolina Highway 46. Beaufort County has approved the project for the impact in the county area of the project. Going through here, and what is attached to the packet and what is posted is there is a total of 137 trees that are proposed to be removed, again, within the town limits. What Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority, as well as town staff, will field locate tree protection fencing in order to potentially reduce the number of removals. So it's, again, once you get out there in the field conditions, we will work with them to make sure that we have the least impact as possible. Other proposals include a certified arborist that would be on site to oversee the construction, again, around those significant trees to limit disturbance and to ensure that the best practices for the tree preservation are followed, whether that's a directional bore, moving slightly one direction or another. Those are things that could be considered on site. Continuing on, there are 10 significant trees. They are not live oaks. There's other oaks, red oaks, other oaks, laurel oaks that are proposed to be removed. And again, there are also other trees that are outlined there, several pine trees of significant size. Again, those oaks, as well as a maple. Public project application, and there is review criteria that town staff uses when reviewing a project. And it does also go before the Development Review Committee. The Development Review Committee is comprised of other town staff from the engineering department, building safety, as well as the fire marshal and the utility providers. So they have reviewed and provided comments on the application, and the review criteria are located on your screen. Essentially, it needs to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. If it's in the historic district, that it complies with those requirements and any certificate of appropriateness requirements that may be required. And also the publicized methods to notify the public of the projects. And once this continues to proceed, both Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority are well aware of that and do have a plan as far as how to sign it, where to place those signs, and to work with the media to make sure that all of that is taken into account. Here's where I will show some pictures. Again, this is the area of the New River Trail. Here you can see kind of in the red where the town of Bluffton property is. And this shows you a perspective of the trees in that area. So there's the entrance, and here's some of the trees. And again, the trees are located within the right of way. However, they do provide, like I said, that visual separation.
Let me stop you for a minute, Heather, since this is a workshop. So you're just telling us the significant trees, but everything on that buffer's coming down?
Not necessarily, no. So there are some trees, again, it's the trees of what we had them look at is trees. Well, what the regulations require is any tree that's 8 inches or more, and then the 24 inches is significant trees. There, it is included in the packet. I didn't pull it up here, but there is the plans from Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority that outlined all of the trees that are X'd out. And you can see snippets of here that shows what is cleared. So it's not necessarily a full cleared area, but it may be in parts. And that's where we haven't gone that far right now. We've just provided our review comments, and they have not yet addressed exactly how it's going to get done.
But just so we'll be aware, that picture that you have is
Yes,
a
right
live
here.
picture of this black and white you have. And you have like 8 X's, but then there are a lot of little black squigglies. Or just the 8 X's coming down, or all the little squigglies that are?
The red X's are the trees that are coming down. What we did was superimpose the picture on their plan. So here you'll see the, here's the road, here's the right of way with the dashed. And then you will see some other X's, yes, that are X'd out, that are what we didn't necessarily tally as trees that would be coming out, wetlands area. Again, just trying to give a sense of what's coming out. This picture here represents this intersection here. So this red arrow here. So this area here are these,
I got
this area
I
essentially.
got you on that, but looking down there, every tree from that white line over 20 feet is coming down, basically.
Pretty much.
Hi.
Nope,
is
sorry,
it
there's
Mrs.
Andrew.
Is it Mrs. Sol?
Hold on one-
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, that's okay. Did you want me to continue on, or should we refer to Andrew for
Just thought a
specific?
Workshop and we could chime
Okay.
in. If you want to
Sure.
continue, I just didn't want you to have to
Up
go
to
back
you.
to that one thing.
No, that's fine. I'll defer to Andrew to specify exactly what's coming out based on this slide here, if that's okay.
Yes. Is it Mrs. Solka?
It's all of us.
Okay.
It's all of council.
So yes, ma'am, you're right. So that picture, so the red X's are the only trees, I believe, slated to be removed in relation to the picture. So we're not clear cutting. It's just several trees that their root systems are going to be right in the critical path of the pipeline. There's a chance we might be able to save some of them. This is kind of like a worst case scenario. So in that picture, I think we have 8 trees represented with, red pluses.
Okay.
Those are the trees that would be taken out in a
And
worst case scenario.
So the little black and white, I don't know, they look like little paw prints. Those are just there to show their trees. They're not coming down as well.
Correct.
Okay.
But there's also the, Emmett said that there's 137 trees. So there are other red X's that were shown on the graphic of trees that are going to be removed.
Correct.
Yes.
There's, I believe, 145 trees for the whole 2.5 miles. So these trees are just represented in what I think she's just giving you an example of one of the areas.
Right, and I have about maybe about 12 of these slides that show those areas of significant trees to just show and demonstrate to you, especially where it's close to or abuts, town-owned property. So just outlining again, kind of moving through. So as I continue on, continuing up through the plans, and like I said, the full set of plans is in your packet as well. So this is an area here that shows what is proposed to be removed from this area. And then if I snip there's a picture that shows what trees, kind of shows that real world example as best as we could, this area right here. And you can see here too, the other side of the road here, so up on the top, is where that power line easement is. We did, since that is already more cleared, at least visually, offered suggestions to them to see if that was an option to put the water line on that side. However, there are some, I believe, some high pressure gas lines and other utilities in that area that make that extremely problematic, and is why this side of the road is what they're proposing to place the water line. And like I said, it is all within that DOT right of way. So they were able to keep that outside of private development or private property. And again, here's where the New River Trail is. So there's the town of Bluffton property line. And again, what you would see. So this tree here, are these trees right over there. And again, when you get over here, again, these trees here, and it was, we tried really, we tried to get some really good pictures out there, but like I said, due to the nature of the road and all the vegetation out there, it was difficult to get individual photographs to really show you tree by tree. And here's where the Heritage Parkway entrance, and then you can see the trees as you start to approach there. And then, like I said, further down here.
So Heather, is your preference for us to wait to ask questions until you're finished, or you?
It's entirely go. I'm fine. Go ahead and interrupt if that's what council would like. As long I just would like that it be productive and you all get all your questions answered. So however you would like to approach it is fine with me.
Sure. So so I was reading the items there, and I saw the number of trees, and I definitely I was just struck on how many trees were taken out. But I saw that there's also the fee that's going to be assessed to Beaufort Jasper for that. So are there going to be any plans to go back and replant any trees in those areas with those funds? Because even though some of them are no longer live, or some of them may be considered insignificant, that's still going to be a huge effect or detriment to that area in removing that amount of trees.
Yes, and actually what I'm working right now, again, we've only provided comments to them at this point. There's been no approval with conditions. I want to make sure I assure everyone that has not occurred at this point at all. One of the comments does include a possible mitigation fee for those removal of trees. However, this instance is a little bit different, and I'm working with Terry Finger right now to determine what the applicability is, because it is in the right of way. So yes, and we'll continue to review that. But the applicability of that fee, because it is within the right of way, I am again just want to make sure that that's how that would apply, because it's the right of way. But if there is a mitigation, we certainly will work with them to make sure that trees are replanted, even regardless of whether or not there's a fee or not. We've continued to work with them, and will continue to work with them to preserve as many trees as possible and to replant wherever it's possible. Obviously, they're proposing to put a water line there, so where those locations are, we would have to work with them to determine that.
Heather, with these,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, with these slides, with these sections of the road, I'm trying to understand, does the water line cross the road at one point?
No, sir.
Or is it all on the southern side of the road?
It's all on the southern side of the road.
Okay, I was a little confused when you were showing the power lines a while ago. I was trying to figure out where those, that the picture looked like they were on the northern side of the road.
Right. The power lines are on the one side of the road. So if you were to drive that, the opposite side of the power lines is where the water line is proposed to be installed. And that will meet up at the end at that Gibbet Road connection. And how that ties in, I would defer to the engineer on that. That's outside the town limits and outside this application. So how exactly it ties in where at that point, I'm unsure. But this proposal is just that one side of the road, the opposite of those power lines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So like I said, just continuing on, just to again give everyone a visual of that corridor and the trees and what you see. Here is the town of Bluffton, that barn park, I will refer to it as. And again, it's a little bit hard to see here, but you've got those red X's to identify the trees. Here's the right of way, this jagged line right here. And then that line right here. Again, here is the impact for near the circle. And what you see here, here's the fencing for that barn property, which is right here. So it will impact, or is proposed to impact, some of these trees here. And again, continuing through to that other side. And this is right here where that the edge of the municipal limits are in unincorporated Beaufort County. And so here again is this area right here. And again, just moving forward. So basically at this point of the review process, like I said, the Development Review Committee did provide comments at the meeting last week, September 2nd. So in order to continue through the process, they would resubmit their plans to again address those comments. Comments included, like I said, a lot of how the project would actually be constructed, that coordination with an arborist as well as town staff. And again, all of that public notice requirements that are included in the Unified Development Ordinance. We are also would need that approved South Carolina DOT encroachment permit. They have been reviewing the project, however, wanted to receive feedback from the municipalities prior to that issuance. And according to Beaufort Jasper, once they receive all their approvals, they are ready to begin in approximately 2 to 3 months. Again, working through that public notice requirement, that is part of our regulations. They also have a public information officer what will coordinate the updates regarding the project information so that we can inform the public of that as well. The total project construction is estimated to take approximately 9 months. And the DOT is not going to allow to close those travel lanes during the day. However, they're allowing some lane closures during the evenings, starting after 7 p.m. and finishing prior to 6. And again, all of these are things that we ask to get notified from the public information officer. So again, we can inform the public however we need to of what would be happening on that road. And like I said, with that, if you have any questions for me or for Andrew, happy to answer.
Right, Andrew.
I have-
Anybody have
question.
questions?
Yes, I have some questions.
Yes, Fred.
Heather, did you say that Beaufort County has already approved their the tree removal?
Yes, sir.
They,
Yes, sir.
What about the trees that in the town limit that has the canopy, the road canopy that we were trying to preserve all these years?
That's why we're here this evening as a workshop. You know, appreciate any comments or suggestions or things to incorporate that you have. Like I said, we see town staff and myself saw this project and the impact to the corridor as something that wanted to get your feedback and information as far as the comments and how to address it. So that's why we're here. Town staff, we've worked throughout the process through some pre-application meetings and meetings with their development team early on to lessen the impacts as much as possible and to just again let them know that this is a scenic highway, what that corridor plan states, as well as what the UDO states as far as requirements. So we acknowledge that in our including all of that in our comments to limit as much as we possibly can.
Okay, when you say that we want to try to, I guess, change your words, mitigate as much impact as possible, Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer, are they on board with trying to save at least the canopy portion of the highway, the highway that we has so belovedly designated as, how their project still is going to be first priority to get the water line done. So, and I think our priority is to try to help them accomplish that but saving as much as the canopy as possible. And as staff work with them, I think council needs to be informed as often as possible how that process is being worked out, because we're going to get lots of calls. We get calls when we clear trees out and you put up and you can see the storage units or the rooftops. So we're going to get a lot of calls about that. I like to also look at your list of trees that's going to be over 8 inches that we anticipate coming down, and the type of trees that they are.
I can, well, to answer your first question, to this point, they've been receptive to the revisions and the changes we've requested. Since Andrew's on this call, I guess he could speak further to that. Happy to provide any updates throughout the progress of the development should it continue to move forward. And then 2, I can pull up in the packet is the entire list that I can, and I think actually 2. Oh, sorry here. No, I thought I had a slide there that showed that.
So there's one, slide 23.
Yeah.
Okay, there's.
And I think it was all of them. I thought it was further
We
up.
had them all tallied. There's also a, oops, excuse me. So each slide lists out those trees, but here we go.
And Fred, this is
The one
also
that you're referring
on the
to?
section on our link. It was way down in the presentation, I think. I think I saw this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to bring up whatever slide or list you would like. But here on the bottom of this tallies that tree removal inventory here. Again, the size, the species. Like I said, tried our best to map this out as best as we could to move forward. But again, because of that nature of the project, it was
Fred, did you get your answers,
difficult.
questions answered beside this list?
I think Andrew needs to speak to my initial question about preserving the canopy as much as possible.
Yes, sir. We will definitely work with the town. In short answer, yes, we will. We'll definitely do that. We're looking forward to do that. We will like to have a staff, having a staff arborist on site during this job has already been budgeted and accounted for. So there'll be a consultant on the job to help us minimize what impacts we can once we get in the field. Each plan sheet on here has a list of the trees with their station number, what kind they are, and the diameter. And again, this is kind of a worst case scenario. And I would just like to bring to council's council's attention that we have redesigned the alignment of this pipeline a few times. We were in the process of acquiring private easements that would put it out of the DOT right away, which actually would have taken down quite a few more trees. Town of Bluffton staff said, we worked with them when they identified they didn't want that many trees taken down. It did get redesigned to be put in the DOT right away to minimize the impacts as much as possible. So please keep in mind, every red X on here is kind of a worst case scenario. Some of them are further away, and I think we'll be able to save some of them. But the red marks on here are kind of a worst case scenario.
And that's a 26-inch oak. That's a huge tree.
Yes, sir. It is. It is. You're right.
There's a 40-inch oak that'll trump that 26-inch oak, Fred.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. But our water quality in the town of Bluffton, is growing. As you know, you have a few developments that are underway and more that are coming, and we're starting to get a lot of low pressure complaints. This project will mitigate that for many years to come with the planned development. Fortunately, it has to go this route because we have to complete a loop for water quality and to stay in compliance. So we took every caution we could to minimize the impacts to the trees. But this is a badly needed, I feel this is a badly needed resource for the area.
Andrew, you've made a comment. I'm glad you said what you stated, and I wanted to follow up on that. So with all of the current plan developments that are in place even for years to come, would the town be going back down this road ever again in the sense of having to add another water line and uproot more native trees? Or is this going to be the remedy, even including the plan units that are out there?
This is the biggest transmission main planned to come through here in the foreseeable future. There's nothing else. I mean, this is the biggest one we have. This is kind of the last part. We've instituted a couple lines that have come through here, and this is a project that kind of ties them all together and creates a loop for the system.
Any other questions from council? I know others have.
I have one quick one, if I may, Lisa. I think this is more for Terry. I'm just on this DOT right away. What grounds do we have legally? I mean, I know we can try to get them to move it as much as we can and save everything that we can, but legally, can we stop them if we said no? I mean, I'm thinking that right away they can probably do what they have to do, being an important utility like that, or not?
Larry, thank you for the question. I would prefer to respond directly back to council and staff. So my response would be subject to attorney-client privilege, and I will have that information for you all very quickly. This is a workshop. We're not looking for any votes. I prefer not to speak, to give legal advice when we're on Facebook and other people are watching. But I'll get each of you a memo on this within the next 24 hours.
What is our timing where the utility wants our comments, and when do we know if our comments are agreed upon? I guess that's my question on this.
Right.
Do you want our feedback other than now? It's our deadline.
Of course, of course, most certainly would like your feedback. And again, that's why we're here first and foremost this evening, and to bring it to everyone's attention that they are requesting this approval to move forward. Right now, there's no additional requirements for meetings beyond the Development Review Committee or further than that. Once they have to resubmit based on the comments that we've already provided to them, and then we have a chance to re-review again and make sure that's all in compliance. So there's no set time frame moving forward. Just again, want to make sure that they resubmit and that we have time to re-review.
Well, I just want to throw a few suggestions. I'm not asking questions. We need to know who that arborist is. I'd like to have a choice in who the arborist is, since they're budgeted. And I want to know the hours that arborist will be there. We all know with the tree trimming that the professionals aren't always there, and they sub it out, and all of a sudden tops are all cut off. So is the staff person going to be there at nighttime? Or is someone from SCE&G that's going to come back to talk to us? Are they going to be there during the night? When is the cutting taking place? Let's make sure it's when we have staff and our arborists there when they're doing the major cutting. I'm really more interested in Heritage at New Riverside than our town property. That's going to clear that area where those homes are. I was just out there today. So I'd like to have more public comment from them, because they're a neighborhood, especially the people who are living on that side. Those are my suggestions. My question is, how does this upset our scenic designation? Because I thought the scenic byway had a lot to do with tree cover and miles of 2-lane roads. Has anyone looked at that? Anybody?
I have not looked into it further since it is within that the existing right of way. However, we certainly can reach out and do that as well.
I would like to know what that's gonna do to, if it does anything. Can you mark the trees before it happens, after all this is over and all the comments are made and hopefully everyone's agreeing to all of our concerns? There are 136 trees. Can someone go out and actually mark every tree that's coming down so we can get a visual of that? Request. That's all I have.
Mayor,
Mhm.
questions. Andrew, you still there?
Yes, sir.
All right, just for the sake of clarity for the public, this whole project is an open trench project, is it not?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, and the width of the trench is how wide?
It could be anywhere between, I think a safe bet would be 4 feet.
Okay, and the depth
Maybe
of the
less.
trench? How deep?
I'd have to pull up my plans. And it
You don't
varies,
need to.
Okay, there's a few sections where it is jack and board underneath the traffic circle, but predominantly it's open trench. Yes, sir.
Okay, and then some of the larger oaks that you've bypassed, are you able to do that without digging close to them, open trench, or are you boring under those?
There's a couple areas where we're doing a jack and bore. We're not. I think how I understand your question is, the big 48-inch oak, is there an option to jack and bore that?
Yeah, in other words, you dig right beside it, even though the tree's not removed, you eat up all the roots and you may kill the tree. That's the point.
Correct. Yes, sir. So that's why, to clarify, the contractor doesn't plan on doing too much night work. If it was, they wouldn't be moving at a quick pace where trees would get taken down our cuttings wouldn't happen without a plan. When they do get next to the roots, it's important to cut the roots instead of pulling them with the tractor backhoe. That's what damages them most. If they're cut properly, I think we could have greater opportunity to save some of the trees.
Okay, the signage for the public, I'm assuming there'll be adequate. I don't know if you're going to use electronic boards or what you're going to do for people to understand that traffic traveling that road in the evenings when the construction is taking place will be an impediment.
Yes, sir. DOT has pretty strict guidelines for how they'd like us to advise the public and the traveling public.
Okay, and my last question. This is an area from New River back to the Old Town area that needs a bike path at some point to continue the bike routes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been talked about, but nobody's pursued it seriously. And did the county ask about that when they approved this?
No, sir, I don't believe so. And
okay, so your easement, once your easement's there, if a bike path was suggested to go down that path, which could fall on your easement, which is in highway right of way, would you acquiesce to the potential of a bike path?
No, that's fine. And that's kind of another added bonus that we redesigned this project and took it out of private property, because we were acquiring easements along the entire alignment. By it being in the DOT right of way, we're really subject to their rules and regulations. They would not object to a bike path on top of us, and neither would we. In fact, we have quite a few areas with our pipelines where your bike lanes are on top of us.
Good. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Andrew.
On that, Andrew, maybe a question on maintenance. Is it, once you put it in, if you have roadways and pavement on it, what is the maintenance? Is there any maintenance? Or are there areas you go to for maintenance?
I believe we're responsible for all road cuts and patches and perpetuity of our utilities. So,
but to go in and maintain, is there ever a possibility of a break in something this big? Or is it pretty good once you put it in?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, there's always a possibility, of course, but this is, it is designed with ductile iron steel pipe. So the likelihood of something happen, with brand new pipe it's 30, 40 years down the road, maybe.
Okay.
But no, ma'am, it's very well engineered infrastructure.
Okay. And then I think too, staff's got to really look at with this arborist that I hope we get to choose of the trees they're not cutting, because Dan made a good point. When we did the streetscape, you're going to see a lot of people hugging trees. You want to make sure they don't kill the trees by hurting those roots, and just we need a lot of care on this. Any other questions, or really Heather wants comments, any ideas, any suggestions for her?
I'd say my only comment and suggestion ties into what everyone's kind of already been saying. If we could do whatever is possible to save as many trees as possible as I know top priority, especially the older trees, and as stated, like the existing canopy that we have.
We don't want to lose our byway designation. That's very important. Okay, do you have enough? Got all of our statement? What will we do next?
Well,
to Heritage at New Riverside, like where does the public get involved?
Well, I received all your comments. So like you said, about just to reiterate quickly to make sure I've captured everything, and certainly can go back and listen again, but the arborist that Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority has included in their budget to find out who that is, what the qualifications are, how and when they're going to work. Ask if they can mark all the trees that are coming down prior to approval. The signage, as far as integrating the signage, getting input from those neighborhoods, and certainly staff will reach out to Beaufort and Jasper, see what input they've had at this point, and come up with a plan moving forward on how to receive any comments. And again, save as many trees as possible, that existing canopy, confirm what the impact would be, if any, on the scenic byway designation. And also it was mentioned as far as regular updates to town council. So I will work with staff and their development team on getting all of this information gathered and as part of any resubmittal. And I can provide an update to town council as part of growth management's monthly update to you all, or however that best way to get that information out to everyone is.
It'd be nice to get Beaufort County's comments. If you could call them, I'm curious what their feedback was, and let's give them our feedback so we're all on the same page.
Yes, of course, we'll do.
Anything else on this? It is a workshop, more to come on it. It's going to be a big impact. I know it. I just feel it. So, Andrew, thank you for being on with us.
Yes, ma'am. Anytime.
And while we go to formal agenda items, please note, I do not follow on Facebook regularly. Some council does. We're not looking at comments on Facebook. So don't feel like we're overlooking you. We're looking at the screen and the presentations. So if you want to make a comment, make it electronically, and Kim Chapman will read it prior to the meeting. So please know we're not overlooking you, but I don't know what your comments are at this moment on this particular item. Next, we're moving to formal agenda items. Consideration of accommodations tax advisory funding. Natalie. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. Share my screen.
Overlooking you, but I don't know what your comments are at this moment on this particular item. Next, somebody's on Facebook, so if they would mute, that'd be great. Funding Natalie.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening again, Mayor and Town Council. You have before you the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee's recommendations for quarter ending June 30th, 2020. There are two applications for your consideration for this quarter that total $39,600. Currently, there are $892,331 available which is split between state and local e-tax funds. The first application is for the Historic Bluffton Arts and Seafood Festival. This will be an abbreviated festival that is currently scheduled to take place between October 17th and the 25th. The organization is requesting $17,000 for advertising and promotion in support of the festival. And the second request is from Old Town Bluffton Merchant Society, requesting $22,600 in support of advertising and promotion of Bluffton as a destination. The committee has recommended fully funding the eligible requested amounts. And I believe Sam Britt has popped on,
He is.
which is chair of the committee. And I'm not sure about Mary, but here I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions at council for either Sam or Natalie?
I have one.
Yes, Fred.
Sam or Natalie can answer this. What if these events are canceled or postponed because of pandemic?
And yes, considering where we are, the way that we have our grants, they are reimbursement based. So we do have we don't just fully fund the organization. We wait for the invoices to come in and make sure that they are part of the grant that they had requested. But they are for advertising to get those tourists to come in and visit Bluffton.
So are we allowing festivals, Mark? Or is this a hope that we're gonna allow it, which I'm fine, but I just didn't know you were giving permits for events.
I have not accepted an application for an event and don't anticipate receiving any or allowing any between at least now and the end of the fiscal or end of the calendar. Sorry.
Okay, I love an abbreviated version. I don't want a group to spend money and then you tell them they can't have an event. So I think y'all need to get together and as long as they're good knowing it may not, I just don't know how they're gonna spend advertising money and not have to pay it.
Right. So I got together as an example, and I could go through each one of these, with the Arts and Seafood Festival. I spoke with the organizers and they had indicated that they're going to take a different spin on it. It won't be on public property. They won't be having all of the festival-esque events as we all know them and love them. They will be more restaurant and individual location centric, and that they are still trying to have a version of Bluffton Arts and Seafood, but not the public festival. So therefore they still would like to advertise, but at a reduced rate or just a different look. So yes, I'm very involved as much as I can in the ones I know about. So hope that helps.
Perfect. I just want to make sure you were in the queue on it. I love it. I hope there's something that can bring back something to us in some normal manner. Any other questions of Sam or Natalie on these? We can go by one each. The first is.
Excuse me, Mayor. I'd like to recuse myself from the Arts and Seafood Festival vote, please.
Okay, that's Councilman Toomer is recusing himself from the Arts and Seafood vote, and Larry, Kim will get you a form to fill out for that if she hasn't already. So we have first the Arts and Seafood Festival. If I can find the front, there. Amount requested $17,000, amount recommended $17,000. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second.
Second.
Okay, Bridget, second. Any discussion? Again, to reiterate, one of our council members, Mr. Toomer, is recusing himself. All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That a unanimous 4, 1 recusal. The next is Old Town Bluffton Merchant Society. had requested 22,600. The commission recommends 22,600. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Sam, thank you always for helping us with this. And I hope it's a full plate in another quarter. Y'all got a lot of money to spend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is consideration of an ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton FY 2020 budget to provide for expenditures for certain funds and to allocate sources of said funds and to carry forward unspent expenditures. This is first reading. This is something we see every year about this time, but I'll hand it over to Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as you mentioned, this is our annual budget amendment. I'm going to share my screen. Is everybody able to see that? So we have a budget amendment carried forward of $3.3 million. This is $101,461 of general fund, which is a transfer to CIP. $402,014 of stormwater utility fund dollars, which is a transfer for CIP projects. CIP budget carried forward of $2.4 million, and the debt service fund of $390,083, which is again a transfer to CIP. So this is at the end of the year. All the unspent dollars for committed projects, these are ongoing projects that are still underway, that had allocated budgeted dollars for that were unspent in the last fiscal year, are carried forward into the FY21 budget so that they may complete those projects in the current fiscal year. And again, this is a first reading. Any questions on these?
Any questions of Chris? If so, we'll have this at second reading too next month. If no questions, is there a motion to approve the first reading of an ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton fiscal 2021 budget to provide for expenditures of certain funds and to allocate sources of revenue for the said funds to carry over unspent expenditures and encumbrances from the 2020 budget to the 2021 budget?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Chris. Next, we have second and final reading on the ordinance authorizing the town manager to execute and deliver an amendment to the easement agreement providing a non-exclusive permanent access and utility easement to the Town of Bluffton Fire District as identified by R610-036-1319. This is second and final reading. And was there any request for any changes, Heather, on any of this? Or, yeah, Heather?
Sorry, I was muted. No, there were no changes since the first reading. So unless you have any questions or would like me to go back through anything, I do have the motion up on the screen for your consideration.
Any questions of Heather? And is there anything anyone might want to relook at? Okay, saying that, I will read this motion. Is there a motion to approve the second and final reading of an ordinance authorizing the town manager to execute and deliver an amendment to the easement agreement providing a non-exclusive permanent access and utility easement to the Bluffton Township Fire District over certain real property and authorizing the execution and recording of certain documents therewith?
So moved.
There's second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That's unanimous. Item 4, consideration of an emergency ordinance of the Town of Bluffton extending the temporary suspension of normal operating procedures of Bluffton Town Council meetings and other public meetings, and to authorize the town manager to develop and enact such plans and policies needed to ensure continuity in the delivery of government services in light of COVID-19. Scott, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just for some background on this emergency ordinance, we first declared a state of emergency in the town on March 16th. And subsequent to that, Town Council adopted Emergency Ordinance 2020-03 on March 17, which did several things. It provided standards for electronic meetings. It also authorized the town manager to, it gave him special authority to do things to keep our town running in light of the emergency conditions we were under. And it also suspended some municipal deadlines with regard to taxation. Town Council adopted Emergency Ordinance 2020-4 on April 14th, which extended sections 3 and 4 that dealt with taxation. And it established clear deadlines for certain other municipal obligations that businesses had. Town Council also adopted Emergency Ordinance 2020-5 on May 12th, which extended sections 1 and 2 of Emergency Ordinance 2020-03 until July 18. And again, sections 1 and 2 dealt with electronic meetings and providing special authority to the town manager. That expired on July 18th. So subsequent to that, or just prior to that expiration, Town Council adopted another emergency ordinance which extended sections 1 and 2 even further until September 17th, which brings us to this meeting. For some background on sections 1 and 2, the following decisions under sections 1 and 2 have been made by the town manager thus far. With regard to conducting town business, all public meetings to conduct town business are accomplished electronically now. Physical staffing of town facilities is reduced to the bare minimum required to conduct business, and telecommuting policies are in place and are encouraged for employees who can work remotely and still get their duties done. Decisions that were made with regard to access to public facilities included access to all docks and ramps was closed April 1st, 2020, which was consistent with the Governor McMaster's executive orders. The Oyster Factory boat ramp was reopened on April 17th, which was also consistent with an executive order by the governor. Restrictions to our town docks remained in place until after the governor's executive order that such restrictions could be lifted. Access to parks and playgrounds was closed on April 1st, again, consistent with another executive order to close public playgrounds and activities that involve the use of shared sporting apparatus and equipment. On June 1st, we opened access to town parks and docks, and that was simultaneous with the expiration of a governor's executive order. However, access to playgrounds remains closed, and that is consistent with CDC guidelines and recommendations. And that brings us to this ordinance, which would extend sections 1 of 2 even further, effective September 17th for 60 days, unless, as stated previously in other adoption of extensions, the question has been asked, can council rescind this sooner? And the answer is yes, council can always take action to rescind an emergency ordinance. You need a 2/3 majority to pass this ordinance. It's by single reading because it is an emergency ordinance, and pending approval, the town will continue to function under the protocols that we have already established. In absence of the approval in the current form that it's presented to you tonight, town operations established by the Code of Ordinances will return to normal operations, meaning the parks and playgrounds and everything that are open and have established hours by virtue of our Code of Ordinances will revert back to those established hours and availability to the public. Any questions from council?
Any questions of council for Scott on this extension? Hearing none, I'll read the motion. Is there a motion to approve?
Mayor, I'm sorry, I was muted and I was trying to get out of it.
And I can't see y'all right now when the motion's up, so I can only hear. I'm sorry.
This
Yes.
is Dan.
Mr. Wood, yes.
Yes, one thing I would like to mention, and I assume this is the appropriate place. I know there's been lots of questions about the playgrounds. And before I go too far, let me say I truly support unequivocally the mask ordinance and some social distancing. But at the same breath, on May the 21st, Executive Order 2020-37 if I have this correctly, the governor allowed playgrounds to open up. Now, in that period of time, there's been many cities in South Carolina, like Greenville, the county of Greenville, Spartanburg, Columbia, and others, and even locally around us, where the playgrounds have been open. And the reason I raise these questions is I know that there's a lot of concern about, people's mental health and getting outdoors and so forth. However, I don't want to make anyone worse off. My point to bringing all this up is I would like to see if staff could explore a way to find a way to open the playgrounds, maybe do some research and find out what it was all the other areas have done. Mount Pleasant's another one. There's many out there that seem to be not having any issues. And I couldn't find anything on the internet saying it created havoc with the COVID virus one way or the other. So anyway, I would like us to explore that, because there's a great possibility this executive order could go on for a period of time if COVID comes back in the winter months. But I'd like to explore that.
Thank you, Dan. Mark, a question on this. Is this something we can pass and then you hear the thoughts of council to look in and provide us some updates on other areas and what your suggestions are? Is that how I read it, Dan, to pass this, but ask to ask staff to come back with some solutions perhaps?
Yes, in other words, yes, exactly.
Okay. And again, I don't see anybody. I've got to play around with my computer. So I'm guessing everyone's.
I'd like to speak, Mayor.
Yes.
When staffers are exploring Dan's suggestion, make sure that we are exploring areas that are experiencing the same type of outbreak that we are. I mean, Bluffton 29910 leads our county. So I want to compare apples to apples, and I've always said this, we can't do what others do. We have to do what works for Bluffton. So make sure we compare to what we're experiencing. That would be my only comment.
Mayor Solka, may I add a couple of things?
Yes.
I was on mute earlier talking, and now I know why nobody could hear me. So we all know that the playgrounds and parks were closed months ago, as well as town hall to the public due to preparedness. I would say this, and it's important that I get the message out as to why those playgrounds remain closed. There's a lot of different reasons that go through my mind, right? It's probably one of the harder decisions I've ever had to make about keeping 3 playgrounds closed. As small as they are, that's a pretty mighty and heavy decision to make. Somebody recently said, don't tell me why they can't open, but tell me how can we open them? Well, and Councilman Wood is correct. There's a lot of places that the playgrounds have reopened. I talked to my colleagues across the state in different parts of the country. There's many more playgrounds open than there are closed at this point, many. And I'll just be clear about that. The CDC and the Accelerate South Carolina and DHEC all have a little bit of information. Some of it's not 100% telling us when or when not to open playgrounds, but Councilman Wood is 100%, I don't need to say he's correct, but I completely understand where Councilman Wood's point is. The governor opened the playgrounds in March. However, the higher the level of transmission, the higher the risk of spreading the virus, right? So the higher the level of the transmission, the higher the risk of the virus spreading. And when you think about percent positive cases, Beaufort County and Bluffton were one of the leaders in the state in terms of peak numbers. So the reason the playgrounds have remained closed, the 3 playgrounds have remained closed, is first and foremost, those numbers peaked. And our ultimate goal, right, and I'll say this, it's not my goal to stop the spread of COVID and jump in front of the train for COVID. I cannot protect the public in that sense. It's my job, given to me the responsibility by you all in this emergency ordinance, to really make decisions outside of town code, right? Town code opens the playgrounds in the morning hours and closes them in the evening hours. You've exempted the town ordinance and you put that with me. We're aligned with Beaufort County, so Beaufort County's parks and playgrounds also remain closed at this time. And so I get it. Hilton Head's playgrounds are open, Beaufort's playgrounds are open, a whole bunch of other places in the state. I think Walterboro and only a few others that I know of in South Carolina remain closed. I would say that my decision thus far has been because of that statement. The higher the level of transmission, the higher the risk of the virus spreading. Are we doing as much as we possibly can to remove the risk and help flatten that curve? And there's ways to open them, Mayor and Council. The only way to open is regular cleaning, appropriate signage, and the restrictions. And those restrictions could be limited hours, social distancing, enforcement. There's only so many ways to open them. And it is through really only those three procedures. Right now, we are aligned with Beaufort County. I'm not sure if that message is loud and clear in the community. But Ms. Jacobs has let me know several times, and we've tried to stay aligned with a lot of these things throughout the last several months. The Beaufort County's playgrounds are the same for the same reasons that I was prescribing to you tonight. I can absolutely get back to you. I would get back to you, and the answer currently right now is my opinion and professional opinion, and please forgive me, I'm not a medical expert and not a COVID expert at this point, but I do have a responsible job to, in a time where cases spike and in a time where we adopt a mask ordinance because of that the playgrounds only remaining closed for some time longer. As we open them, we will need to clean them very often. For me, I would not recommend to you all that we simply put a sign up that says, play at risk. Go ahead. Buyer beware, play at risk. We would need a better cleaning plan in place, and that's a regular cleaning plan. I have researched a lot of different products and have a product in mind that we could spray that equipment that's antimicrobial. It lasts for a while. Different schools are using it in their schools and testing it on their playgrounds. Definite signage and definite a reliance upon the community, the people using it, to properly socially distance so we don't have to show up and tell them how to do it. But for now, and because of the emergency ordinance in place, I've decided to keep them closed for a little while longer. And so with that, I'll take any questions and also ask you how you would like me to make this recommendation back to you. Do you want to put this on the agenda a month from now, or do you simply want me to call you or email you?
I think since Dan asked about it at a meeting, I think people, they probably want to hear your thoughts, unless we can just spread it to people who are asking. I think it should be in print somewhere in an email or, I hate maybe in a month. I mean, you might decide within a month to open them, but then you may decide in a month to close. If you're still on that closed route, maybe give us some feedback as to why. Just conversation. What are y'all's thoughts?
I did want to comment. I was going to say, Mark, I know it's a tough decision for you, and thank you for you and your staff on what you guys have been doing in the midst of this pandemic. I would say one suggestion as far as what I would like to see if we do open the parks back is to place like a sanitation station outside in sense of like where people can use sanitizer that's available. I also know that, this is our first time as a society dealing with a pandemic in our times. I don't think it's going to be the last, but I think it's going to be important that we do come up with some type of contingency plan, knowing that we can't be shut down forever, but we can still be respectful of what science is saying and the need to make sure that we are not adding to the peak in numbers. So I think in being able to open the parks back up with certain contingencies, as we're seeing with recreation, other recreational facilities and other businesses with encouraging people, as you stated, to social distance and doing other things. I think I would like to see that as long as we're able to, have things being cleaned as necessary, have a sanitation thing in place, and make sure that, people are abiding by those, and then we're not adding to existing problems. I also love your idea of the limited hours. I think we can wade back into it, not full-fledged, but I think, if we do it incrementally, I think it might work.
I have a Mayor, if I may.
Larry, I think I hear you, I just don't see
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. I just want to chime in here and give my opinion about this. I've been doing a lot of talking to people important in my life, such as my wife, my family, my daughters with small children, other school teachers, my sister's a high school teacher on Hilton Head, other teachers in the neighborhood. And I think that they're responsible enough people for the most part that they're going to take care of cleaning, keeping their kids safe. Could they possibly catch something? Yes. But they're going to McDonald's, they're going into restaurants, they're going to school, going into daycare, playing outside with each other, wrestling in the grass. I really, honestly don't see the difference between a swing set and playing tag football or any of that. I'm sure there's a possibility, and I understand and I respect everyone's opinion. I personally have said for the last few months that I think the playgrounds should be opened and trust the parents with their children. Maybe a sign that says no children are allowed without a guardian or a parent would even be one of those recommendations that I could make. But anyway, I love you all. I'm not arguing about it. I'm just saying that's my message, and it's the same as it's been. So thank you.
Anything else? I think, Mark, you've got good suggestions. I guess I like the idea of looking and see a slow transition into it when you feel good. I do agree with Fred. I think a lot of these places have to meet what our statistics are. I do too, just maybe to throw it out there, and I don't want to upset people, not y'all, but 96% of our town's master planned. And I've done a pretty good search of most communities there. Some are closed, some playgrounds are closed, some are open. So only 4% of our town has no access to playgrounds right now, except town playgrounds. Some of the communities, and I think someone told me this, I think Larry might have, just Mill Creek or Cypress Ridge, you have to almost sign a form that you're not liable. And I think that's where the town might have issues, and Terry could speak to it, more the liability of it. Everyone wants to sue governments, it seems like. And Mark, you got to be careful with the liability of it. I think that's just my concern. When I know most every community has a playground in its community today, not to mention parks and roads. And I'm sympathetic. I hope it all opens up one day, and I hope you tell us you're opening them up. But I do trust what you're doing.
One final comment, Mayor. Mark, when you do more work on this, and none of us, including you, which is what makes your job difficult, we can't predict where COVID-19 is going in the future. All the scientists say the wintertime is going to be challenging. However, if you do come back with a plan at some point or a recommendation to try it, I think we should also have something in place where if you feel things are getting bad, that we can notify the public as to why we close it again. Like you don't want to go swimming at a beach if the water's bad. They put up something, like red, stay out of the water because of these conditions. So, maybe identify some conditions that if you have to make a decision like that, it can be understood by all of the public. We're in a zone red because, going back to Fred's comments also. So anyway, just a thought.
Mayor, if I could just add a couple final comments, because I want to get you what you're asking for. And I'll be honest, I want to make sure I'm really tracking what you're asking for. The conditions right now are the red sign with the water closed due to due to certain reasons. I think what you're asking me to do is track the data over the next month to see if it's reduced any, and if and when it's reduced any, to have a contingency plan, a real plan in place to open those playgrounds with best in class, so to speak, measures in place. Is that what you're asking me to do? You're asking me to track the data, let you know where I stand in several weeks, but then also have a plan in place if and when we see that data reducing. Is that your direction?
That and Dan's, I think it didn't hit really on Dan of look at other, and Fred's look at other communities similar to us. If you can, if there are, like, and then your talkings with other people, and just put it on paper that you have or will do that.
Okay, I'll put that on paper. I have definitely talked about it, and the number one that I've aligned with right now is our county partner with their parks. Their parks are closed. Our parks are open, and so I'll definitely align with them, and I'll give you a good. You know, it's not always easy to find, but we'll work the phones and let you know what communities in South Carolina with comparable rates are open or closed. And I think that is good data. But my decision will remain the same if those numbers are still high.
Got it. Does that help everyone? Does that somewhat give everyone an idea there's a direction? Great. Okay, if any other questions, if not, I've lost the motion, Scott. Sorry. There you go. That's good. Is there a motion to approve an emergency ordinance of the town of Bluffton extending the temporary suspension of normal operating procedures of the town, council meetings and other public meetings, and to authorize the town manager to develop and enact such plans and policies needed to ensure continuity in the delivery of government services in light of COVID-19 outbreak as presented? Anybody want to make that motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have consent agenda, and it's got 7 different items on the consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to take off to discuss further? If not, are there any recusals? You're muted.
Yes, this is Fred. I'm recusing myself from the consent agenda.
Okay, so Kim, would you give him a form for that in an email? Fred is recusing himself from the entire vote of the consent agenda, so there'll be 4 of us. All in favor to approve the consent agenda, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? So that's 4 and 1 recusal. Finally, there's a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters regarding town appointments of boards, commissions, That's FOIA 3470A1. Personnel matters relating to town manager contract, FOIA 3470A2, and personnel matters relating to selection of town of Bluffton chief of police, FOIA 3470A1.
So moved.
There's second.
Second.
There will be, any discussion? There will be action taken off of probably one of the items. So we will come back before you in about probably 30, 45 minutes. So all in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session.